How's it going, you awesome bunch of bakers? Hope you're having a fine day so far. Welcome back to another video. Today we have another brioche recipe because you can't have too many of them. So let's get in the kitchen and get started. I love working with brioche. It is extremely simple to make and it's so versatile. It can be used in sweet as well as savory applications, but of course the sweet ones are always the more popular ones. I saw a similar recipe to this on the King Arthur baking website. I decided to adapt it to my style and of course make it without kneading. It's a super light and soft loaf filled with swirls of cocoa, chocolate and dried cherries. And the best part is that you can adjust the filling to your taste. Use other ingredients if you like. It's a simple, fun little project. So let me show you how it's done so you can make yours. Starting with the ingredients for the dough, we'll need some white bread flour, eggs, butter, sugar, salt and yeast. I'm using handmade butter from one of my previous projects. You can find that in the home milling playlist. Okay, let's jump right into making the dough. First things first, temperature control. My kitchen is around 23 degrees Celsius or about 73 degrees Fahrenheit, so I'm just using room temperature ingredients. In a large bowl, combine the eggs, the yeast, the salt, the sugar. Grab a whisk and mix until the salt and sugar have completely dissolved. Incorporating large amounts of butter into a no-knead recipe may be challenging, but I came up with a method that is really easy. This kind of method is usually used for cake making. After dissolving the salt and sugar, take the flour and add around 8 tablespoons of it to the liquid. Then keep whisking until it becomes all nice and smooth. Then take the butter, which should be soft, and whisk it in. Incorporating the butter this way prevents it from splitting. The thick floury batter absorbs it and keeps it in place. Once you have mixed the butter in, add the remaining flour, then take your dough scraper and mix it to a dough. And that is all there is to it. After this, we'll just give it a couple of folds and our dough will be done. Back in the day, I used to mix my dough in the mixer for around half an hour. Now all it takes is a couple of minutes and a couple of folds later on. Right, once you've mixed up your brioche, wet your hands with water, take it out to the bowl, give it a fold while it's up in the air and place it in a clean bowl. Then check the temperature to see where you're at. If your dough is over 25 or 26 degrees Celsius, place it in the fridge to cool down straight away. If it's 25 or below like mine, leave it out on the table for the first 30 minutes. 30 minutes later, perform the first fold. This dough is not very sticky, thanks to all the butter, but it is very loose. Drop it out on the table, then fold it over itself whilst going around in a circle. Give it at least 30 quick folds. Roll it up into a bowl, place it back into the bowl, and now place it in the fridge for the next 30 minutes. 30 minutes later, pull the dough out of the fridge and then perform the second fold. And the second fold goes exactly the same as the first one. Drop the dough out on the table, fold it over itself whilst going around in a circle. This time you don't need to fold it 30 times though. Just fold it until it feels relatively tight, place it back into the bowl, leave it to chill for another 30 minutes. This recipe requires half of the brioche dough. So after the final 30 minutes of chilling, I'm weighing my dough and dividing it into 2 equal pieces. I always make a double batch of brioche because I like to use it for a couple of projects. You have a couple of options. You can either make half the dough to begin with. In that case, at this point you would simply give it another fold, or you can do what I'm doing, make the whole dough, divide it in half, and then either make 2 loaves or use it for another project. But regardless of what you do, after shaping the dough balls or after giving your dough the final fold, wrap it up in cling film and then place it back into the fridge for the long cold fermentation, which will take around 18 to 24 hours. During this time the brioche will develop a nice fermented flavor. If you want to make this on the same day, I would suggest leaving 1 egg out of the recipe. It will make it a lot easier to work with. Whilst the brioche is fermenting, let's have a look at the other ingredients that we need for turning this dough into a nice cherry chocolate loaf. We'll need some chocolate. I'm using milk chocolate, but you can use any chocolate that you like. We'll need some dried cherries, sugar, cinnamon, an egg for glazing, and some pearl sugar for topping. If you don't want to source pearl sugar, you can use regular sugar instead. I'm using brown sugar for the filling, because it's nice and flavorful. Mix the sugar with the cocoa powder. If you are using brown sugar, try to break it up as much as you can so there are no lumps. Once the dough is fermented, take it out of the fridge, dust it generously with flour on both sides, and then roll it out to a large rectangle. The shaping of this loaf is pretty unique and interesting. I don't think I've ever tried something like this. After rolling the dough out, we'll cut it into 3 equal portions. Then brush it with some water to make it sticky. Then we'll take the sugar and cocoa powder mix and sprinkle it evenly over the 3 dough pieces, leaving a little edge at the side. Then we'll distribute the chocolate pieces and the dried cherries between them. Press the fillings into the dough so they stick, and then roll each piece up and seal it. You have to be patient and careful here because the filling is loose. As you roll the dough up, It might slide forward or some pieces may fall out. Just go slowly and roll it up as tight as you can. And whilst I'm doing that, just think of all the other fillings that you could use. You could make them like regular cinnamon rolls by making a butter, sugar and cinnamon paste, spreading it over the dough and then rolling that up. Or you could spread some custard in there and then top with raisins, kind of like a pain au raisin loaf. Or perhaps even make it savory. Spread some bechamel in there, sprinkle it with some cheese, add some roasted garlic and herbs. There are so many things you could do. Just make sure that you roll it up nice and tight. If you can, press the fillings into the dough. If you are using some kind of paste, then you don't need to worry about it too much. But if you are using a loose and crumbly filling like this, then it's worth taking care and spending a few extra seconds. Use the exposed part of dough for sealing up the roll. And make sure it sticks, because we still need to braid this loaf. And we don't want these rolls coming undone whilst we're doing that. To shape this 3-strand braid, connect the points of the 3 rolls at the top and then go over under. Once you have finished, slightly tuck the ends underneath the loaf. And that's one way of making a filled braided loaf. It's quite unique and I'm definitely going to try this for some other recipes. And if you are interested in some other brioche recipes, do check out the brioche playlist. And remember that even the old recipes in which I use the mixer can easily be made with the type of dough I'm showing you in this video. So there's no need to use the mixer for anything anymore. Once again, I'm using my USA pan Pullman tin. It's just the best tin I've ever owned. The brioche is very buttery, so it will not stick. The final proofing of this brioche dough will take a while as always, around 3–3.5 hours. To make it rise sooner, place it in a warmer area, but during the last hour of fermentation preheat the oven, 170 degrees Celsius, 340 Fahrenheit, fan on. And that is 190 Celsius or 375 Fahrenheit, fan off. There are just a couple things left to do before we bake this bad boy. Brush it with egg and then sprinkle it with some pearl sugar. Or use regular sugar if you want to. Or use some other topping. Or leave it plain. It's up to you. Okay, let's get this thing in the oven. It'll take around 40 minutes to fully bake. Once it's nicely puffed up and the crust is dark and rich, it's ready. Remove it from the baking tin, leave it to cool down and then tuck in. And whilst you are enjoying your cherry chocolate brioche loaf, think of all the other projects you could use brioche dough for. And if you can't make up your mind, head over to the brioche playlist. It has more than 20 recipes in it. And don't forget that you can share pictures of your bakes on our Flickr group. It's a nice little community of bakers. You'll find a link below in the video description or in the pinned comment in the comments section. So what do you think this cherry chocolate loaf? Have you made something like this before? Let me know down in the comments. You want to see more videos like this one? Click over here. Subscribe to the channel, click right here. That's all I have for you today. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.